They say family is supposed to be your safe place, the people who know you best and love you anyway. But that's not always true. Sometimes, family is just the first group of people to teach you what betrayal feels like. My name's Julian. I'm 27, and 2 years ago, I had a roof over my head, a modest savings account, and the kind of blind trust in my relatives that only someone who hadn't been tested would still have. I thought we were close, you know? Not perfect, but close enough that if things ever got hard, we'd be there for each other. I didn't realize just how wrong I was until my little sister, Lena, decided to lie, and my whole family decided to believe her. Lena's 23 now, 4 years younger than me, and if you asked my parents, she could do no wrong. Growing up, she was the golden child. I was the quiet one who did my homework and didn't cause trouble. Lena, on the other hand, was always loud, always dramatic, always in the middle of some mess, and somehow, always the victim. She'd crash her car. It was the mechanic's fault. Fail a class. The teacher was out to get her. Borrow money and not pay it back. She's just struggling. Julian, don't be so cold. I can't count how many times my parents bent over backwards to make her life easier, while I was told to toughen up or stop making things harder than they need to be. I resented it sometimes, but I told myself that was just how families worked. Some people needed more help than others. I kept my head down, paid my way through college, and landed a decent job in software. I wasn't rich, but I was stable, independent, and I was proud of that. Then my grandfather passed away. He was the only person in the family who really saw me, who asked me questions, remembered things I told him, actually listened. When I was a teenager and my parents said no to sending me to coding camp, Grandpa took money out of his own pension to cover it. When I got my first internship, he was the only one who showed up to take me out for a celebratory lunch. So when he died, I was heartbroken. But I also felt this strange sense of peace knowing I'd made him proud. The funeral was quiet, somber. My parents didn't cry much, but Lena put on a whole show, sobbing loud enough for the neighbors to hear, dramatically clutching at his photo like she was starring in a soap opera. I remember standing off to the side, watching her, and feeling something twist in my gut. It was like I could already tell something was about to shift. I just didn't know how far it would go. About a month after the funeral, my dad called a family meeting. That alone was weird. He never called family meetings. We usually only gathered when someone graduated or got engaged or had a birthday, and even then it was mostly just small talk and a few awkward hugs. But this was serious, apparently. When I got to my parents' house, Lena was already there, sitting on the couch with this smug little smile like she knew something I didn't. Mom looked anxious. Dad cleared his throat and handed me a manila folder. "This is Grandpa's will," he said. "You should read it." I flipped it open and skimmed the pages, my eyes catching on one line that made me blink twice. To my grandson Julian, I leave the house on Oakwood Drive, and the sum of $80,000 in savings, to be used at his discretion. I looked up, confused. That house. Grandpa's house. I had no idea he'd left it to me. I didn't even know he still had that kind of money tucked away. My parents sat in silence as I processed it, like they were waiting for me to say something offensive. I didn't expect this, I said carefully. I didn't know he'd done this. My mom sighed. "We didn't either," she said, her tone clipped. "We assumed everything would be split." I nodded slowly. "Well, I'll make sure to take care of it. Maybe rent it out, or, you don't deserve it," Lena snapped. Just like that. No build-up. No pretense. I turned to her, startled. "Excuse me." She crossed her arms. "You manipulated Grandpa. You visited him more than any of us. You made him think you were the only one who cared, so he'd give you everything." I felt my jaw tighten. "I visited him because I loved him, Lena. You were too busy getting high with your boyfriend or crashing his car." "That's not true," she shot back. "He was sick and confused. He probably didn't even know what he was signing." That's when my dad chimed in, which really caught me off guard. "Lena says she saw you pressuring him to change his will last year. She told us right after the funeral, but we didn't want to say anything until we had the paperwork." My stomach dropped. "What? That's a lie. I never." "Are you serious right now?" My mom looked away. "We just want to get to the truth, Julian. If you coerced him, I didn't," I said louder now. "This is insane. You think I tricked a dying man into leaving me a house?" "You were always jealous of Lena," Dad muttered, like that explained everything. "Maybe this was your way of getting back at us." That was the moment something cracked in me. Not just because of what they said, but because I realized they meant it. They weren't just speculating. They'd made up their minds. My sister lied, and my parents, people who raised me, who watched me grow up, believed her without even asking me. Over the next few weeks, everything spiraled. My parents started talking about getting legal advice, revisiting the will, trying to argue that Grandpa was mentally unfit when he signed it. Lena started posting vague things on social media. Some people will do anything for money, and family isn't always blood, while all her friends jumped in to defend her. I lost sleep. I lost weight. I started second-guessing every memory I had with my grandfather, wondering if I'd done something wrong without realizing it. The worst part? I tried to talk to them. I really did. I offered to split the money. I told them they could have the house. I just wanted to keep Grandpa's old tools and a few photo albums. But that only made things worse. Lena spun it into more proof that I felt guilty. My dad called me manipulative. My mom said, "It's too late to fix things with bribes, Julian." I was cut off. Emotionally, financially, completely. My parents told me they didn't want to see me until I told the truth. I told them I already had. They said, "Then I guess this is goodbye." And just like that, I was out. But it got worse. So much worse. And the next part of this story? That's where everything started to unravel, for all of us. Including me. Especially me. The first month after my family iced me out was surreal. It was like getting excommunicated from a cult I didn't realize I was in. Suddenly, I wasn't invited to dinners. Group chats I used to be in mysteriously disappeared. My Aunt Nancy stopped liking my posts, and even my cousin Dylan, who I used to tutor in algebra, left my messages on read. It wasn't just cold shoulders. It was calculated. Like I was a virus they were quarantining. Lena's lie had spread like wildfire, and no one bothered to check the truth. Because the story was easier when I was the villain. I kept thinking they'd come around. That they'd realize how absurd it all was. That maybe they'd see Lena's Instagram story of her partying 3 nights a week and wonder how that lined up with her victim sob story. But no, my parents doubled down. They started looking into lawyers, trying to challenge Grandpa's will. Every few days I'd get a vague, threatening text from my dad like, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Or, "If you had any honor, you'd do the right thing." At first I ignored them. Then I started saving screenshots. I was still trying to be the bigger person. Still holding on to hope. Until one afternoon I came home from work and found an envelope taped to my apartment door. It was from a local law firm. My stomach sank before I even opened it. Inside was a formal notice of intent to contest the will. And listed in the complainants section, my father, my mother, and Lena. They weren't just mad anymore. They were trying to take everything. I remember dropping the envelope on the kitchen table and just sitting there, staring at nothing. I hadn't touched a cent of Grandpa's money. The house was sitting empty because I didn't feel right doing anything with it yet. I'd been paying for upkeep, mowing the lawn, utilities, security cameras, all out of my own pocket. And now they were accusing me of fraud, of elder abuse, of manipulating a man I loved like a second father. I felt sick. That night, I called my mom. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted answers. She picked up on the second ring. "Julian," she said, like I was some stranger who'd interrupted her dinner. "You're really doing this?" I asked. "You're letting this go to court?" There was a pause. Then, flatly, "We need to correct an injustice." I almost laughed. "You think I'm the injustice?" "You took advantage of your grandfather," she said quietly. He was confused. "Sick. Lena saw you pressuring him to sign that paper, and that never happened." I snapped. "She made that up. You're tearing this family apart over a lie." Another pause. "Sometimes," she said, "people do things when they're desperate." I was stunned, not by what she said, but how calm she was saying it. Like none of this mattered. Like she could throw me into the fire without blinking. And then she said something I'll never forget. "Lena's had a harder life than you, Julian. She's always struggled. You've always been fine. You'll land on your feet." That was it. That was the explanation. I could endure it, so I should. I hung up without another word. The legal fees started piling up quickly. I met with an estate attorney who reviewed everything and assured me that the will was solid. "They don't have a case unless they can prove coercion," he said. "Do they have evidence?" "Only a story," I replied. He nodded. "Then you're fine. But you'll still need to show up. And it's going to cost you." And it did. Thousands of dollars just to defend what was legally mine. I started budgeting hard, cutting back on every non-essential expense. pausing contributions to my savings, even taking on some freelance gigs in the evenings to stay afloat. Meanwhile, Lena's little narrative was gaining traction. She started telling people I was hoarding the inheritance, that I'd stolen her future. One day I found out through an old college friend that she'd posted a TikTok crying about how her brother robbed her blind after their grandfather died and left her with nothing. The comments were full of people saying things like, "He's disgusting," and "I hope she sues him into the ground." She'd turned our grief into content. But the worst came a few weeks later. I just finished a grocery run and was unloading bags into my apartment when I got a call from the property manager. "Hey, Julian," he said, sounding weirdly formal. "We've had some concerns raised by the community. Someone left an anonymous tip that you're using your unit to run some kind of inheritance scam." My heart dropped. "What?" "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but someone's been posting flyers around the complex. Said you forged a will and kicked your sister out of her share." I was stunned. "That's not true. That's absolutely false." "I figured," he said quickly. "I told the board it was probably someone with a grudge, but we still had to flag it." I walked outside and found one of the flyers taped to the mailbox cluster. Big block letters. "Beware, inheritance thief in Unit 3C." And beneath it, a photo of me. A grainy image from my LinkedIn profile, probably cropped without context. I stood there for a long time, paper in my hand, cars driving by like nothing was wrong, and for the first time in months, I felt something snap. It wasn't just the lie. It was the campaign. The quiet war my sister had waged against me behind closed doors and through whispers, until my name was dirt and my own neighbors were giving me side eyes. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about the house or the money. It was about something deeper. Lena didn't just want what Grandpa gave me. She wanted to ruin me for having it. I tried to file a report, but since the flyers were unsigned and there was no camera footage of who posted them, the police couldn't do much. "You can pursue a civil defamation suit," one officer told me. "But it's hard to prove unless you have direct evidence she was behind it." I didn't. Not yet. Still, I couldn't stay there anymore. Every trip to the mailbox felt like a walk of shame. I started noticing neighbors whispering. A few people stopped holding the elevator. One guy in the laundry room made a joke under his breath that I was the next Anna Delvey. I knew Lena had done this. She always did just enough to stay one step away from consequence. I wasn't about to let her win. So I packed up my essentials and moved into the Oakwood house. Grandpa's house. My house. It was quieter there, older, with creaky floors and faded curtains. But it felt like a sanctuary. I dusted off his old recliner, pulled out a few albums from the closet, and sat in the living room for hours, just breathing. For the first time in months, I felt like I could hear myself think. But the peace didn't last, because 3 days later, I got a notice from the county. Someone had reported the house as abandoned and potentially unsafe. An inspection was scheduled. If the property failed, it could be flagged for violation fines. I was livid. The lawn was trimmed, the mail collected, everything was in order. But someone wanted to make it look like I was neglecting it. I didn't even need to guess who. That same day, I got a text from my dad. No greeting, no explanation. Just a screenshot of a Zillow listing for Grandpa's house, back from 2 years ago, with the text, "You're not even using it. Just give it to someone who will." I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed back, "You mean Lena?" His reply came instantly. "She deserves it more than you." No context, no apology, just that. I should have been used to it by now, but that one hurt in a different way. It wasn't just that they chose her over me. It was how little they thought I mattered, how disposable I'd become in their eyes. The legal case dragged on. Lena's lawyer tried to subpoena my financial records, arguing that my pattern of behavior showed intent to manipulate Grandpa. My lawyer shut it down fast, but the damage was done. My name kept getting dragged. Court date after court date was postponed. Months passed, and then my contract job ended. The company downsized, and I was one of the first to go. With most of my savings eaten up by legal fees, I had nothing left. No income, no support, no backup plan. I sold my furniture, canceled all my subscriptions, and finally had to let go of the apartment I'd stopped living in anyway. But the utilities on Grandpa's house were overdue now too, and I couldn't afford to fix the broken furnace. I started sleeping in my car when the nights got too cold, just until my next gig, just until something turned around. I told myself I wasn't homeless. Not really, just in transition. That's what I kept telling myself. Meanwhile, Lena was living in my parents' guest house rent-free, driving a newer car than me, taking selfies at brunch with captions like, "Hard work pays off," and "Surround yourself with real ones." And the real kicker? She was planning a trip to Costa Rica to decompress from all the family drama. The only reason I knew that? Because she posted a TikTok from the airport, dancing. And that was the moment I stopped trying to fix things. That was the moment I started planning something else. For the first time in my life, I didn't have a permanent address. I rotated between Grandpa's old Ford Escape and a friend's basement couch when I could. I didn't tell many people. The ones who noticed my sudden quiet on social media probably assumed I was just laying low during the legal drama. In reality, I was living off instant noodles and coffee refills from a gas station with Wi-Fi. Every night, I'd scroll through job boards until my eyes hurt. Most offers were too competitive or too underpaid. The ones that fit? They ghosted me after one interview. At first, I kept thinking, this is temporary. Something will break soon. But weeks turned into months, and rock bottom stopped feeling like a place I was visiting. It felt like my new zip code. I kept waiting for my parents to reach out. For someone, anyone, from my family to check on me. Ask if I was eating, if I needed anything. But silence has a weight to it. It settles on your shoulders like dust until you stop noticing how heavy it is. Nobody asked where I went. Nobody wondered why I'd stopped showing up to birthdays. It was like I'd never existed. And yet somehow, Lena kept the spotlight firmly on herself. According to her Instagram, she was a healing empath working through generational trauma. Whatever that meant. Her captions read like therapy buzzwords strung together with glitter emojis. Protect your peace. Release what no longer serves you. Meanwhile, she was actively trying to evict me from my own legal inheritance. But anger only fueled me for so long. At some point, I stopped wanting revenge and just wanted relief. I was too tired to fantasize about payback. I just wanted to stand up without my legs shaking. One night, in the back seat of my car parked near a dimly lit park, I opened Grandpa's old toolbox. He'd kept it in the trunk ever since I helped him move into Oakwood. There was this small wooden box inside it that I'd never paid much attention to. I opened it out of boredom, and that's when I found it. A flash drive, labeled in Grandpa's handwriting, for Julian. My heart started pounding. I plugged it into my laptop immediately. It contained only two things, a Word document and a video file. The document was a letter, dated 3 months before he died. Julian, if you're reading this, it means I've passed, and I hope the will reached you. I know your parents will be angry, and I know Lena will lie. I'm sorry for that, but I've watched how this family treats you. You're the only one who ever showed up for me without needing something. You listened. You helped. You never asked for anything in return. The house is yours. The savings are yours. Not because I pity you, but because I trust you to build something with them. I know your heart, and I know that even when they try to tear you down, you'll find a way to stand tall. You always have. I love you. More than I ever said out loud. Grandpa. I didn't cry immediately. I just stared at the screen, my eyes burning for more than just the glow. That one paragraph had more love in it than I'd felt from my parents in years. And the video? It was a selfie recording. Grandpa's voice cracked as he spoke. Hey, kiddo. I know you hate sappy stuff, so I'll keep this short. If they ever try to say I didn't mean what I wrote in the will, show them this. I wasn't confused. I wasn't pressured. I chose you. You're going to do great things, Julian. Don't let them make you small. I saved both files in 3 places. I emailed them to myself. I backed them up twice. Then I sat there in the dark, with my coat over my legs and the engine off, and I finally let myself cry. Not because I was broken, but because I finally remembered that I wasn't. The next morning, I shaved for the first time in a week. Took a real shower at the gym. I packed everything I had and left the car behind, walking straight into a co-working space downtown that offered free trials. I set up at a desk and got to work. I'd always been good at coding. Clean, simple, elegant solutions. I'd done freelance here and there, helping small businesses build apps or automating back-end systems. But I never thought of it as more than a side hustle. Until now. Now I didn't have time to second-guess myself. I took every low-paying gig I could find. Logo animations, web scraping, small Shopify edits. It wasn't glamorous, but it bought me coffee and time. 2 weeks in, I cold emailed a startup I admired. One of those scrappy teams making AI tools for small e-commerce stores. Their app was clunky, their back-end code was inefficient, and they were clearly struggling to scale. I didn't ask for a job. I just rewrote a section of their app, showed how it ran faster, and included a link to a GitHub repo with clean documentation. They replied in 2 hours. Can you hop on a Zoom? That call turned into a freelance contract. The contract turned into steady hours. The steady hours turned into real income. It wasn't just money, it was purpose. Every sprint meeting, every code push, every bug fix, it made me feel like I was climbing again. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet about the legal case. Didn't respond to texts from Dad. Didn't retaliate to Lena's vague digs. I focused on stacking wins. Quiet ones. I took Grandpa's savings and reinvested some into fixing up the Oakwood house. Not too flashy, just enough to make it safe. I replaced the furnace, repainted the kitchen, installed better locks. I got a P.O. box, updated my resume, swapped out my car registration to the Oakwood address. It was mine now. I started saying that out loud when I got the chance. Not the house. Not Grandpa's place. Mine. The court dates kept getting delayed. Lena's side tried everything. Character attacks, hearsay, even attempting to get her boyfriend to claim he'd witnessed me threatening Grandpa. My lawyer crushed it every time. Methodical. Calm. Facts only. And the whole time, I waited. Patient. Focused. Building. 6 months after my lowest point, the startup offered me a full-time role. Remote. Great benefits. Equity. They wanted me to lead a small team. It felt surreal. I accepted without blinking. I bought a real mattress. Replaced my shoes. Took myself out for steak. And then one morning, out of nowhere, I got a call. Not from Lena. Not from my parents. From the bank. Hi. This is Ms. Jernigan from Capital First. We're trying to reach your father regarding the foreclosure status on their secondary property. We believe you may be listed as a possible co-signer, or at least someone with interest in the Oakwood parcel. I froze. Sorry. Foreclosure. Yes, sir. There's been a string of missed payments, and we've attempted contact for 90 days. Our records show your family attempted to leverage your inherited property as part of their loan application, but we're finding inconsistencies in the paperwork. Are you aware of any current liens or disputes? No, I said slowly, but I'd be very interested in hearing more. That was the day I realized everything was crumbling on their side now. The guest house Dad had built in the backyard? It had been funded by loans using inflated appraisals, and when my parents tried to expand it into a short-term rental, the local zoning board denied the permit. Lena had moved into that guest house thinking it was a permanent upgrade. Now it was on the chopping block. And I was just getting started. The foreclosure notice was more than just an alert. It was a signal flare in the dark, showing me exactly where to strike. Until then, I'd been surviving, rebuilding, piecing myself together. But now I saw the cracks forming in their carefully constructed world. The one they built on lies, stolen affection, and a trust fund they never earned. My family wasn't thriving without me. They were sinking, and they had no idea I was watching. The first thing I did was call Ms. Jernigan back, the bank representative. She was surprisingly candid. Your father and mother applied for a line of credit expansion, she said, her voice clipped and professional. The Oakwood property was listed as part of their declared assets, which raised red flags when we noticed the probate court dispute. I played dumb. Oh wow, they claimed my house as an asset. Yes, sir, she replied. We assumed it was jointly held or in contention. Is it not? I smiled to myself. No, the deed is in my name. Always has been. Probate confirmed it. I see, she said, her tone shifting slightly. That will affect the collateral arrangement. Thank you for your time. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, still sipping the same coffee from earlier, and I laughed. I laughed for the first time in months, long and real. They didn't just try to steal from me. They counted on me staying silent. They thought I'd fold. Sell. Settle. Instead, I'd built a life in the ashes they left me. And they, people who always thought they were the smartest in the room, didn't even realize the chessboard had flipped. But I didn't want to gloat. I wanted a plan. That's when I remembered Dylan. My cousin. Aunt Nancy's kid. The same cousin who used to come to me for help with his college essays and random coding projects. Unlike the others, Dylan never blocked me. Never unfollowed. Just quietly faded into the background when all the drama exploded. So I shot him a text. Me, hey. Random question. You still living at your mom's? Dylan, yeah. Why? Me. I'll explain soon. You got 5 minutes to talk? He called immediately. At first, Dylan was hesitant, speaking carefully, like he wasn't sure which version of me he was talking to. But once I explained everything, the drive Grandpa left me, the bank's foreclosure notice, the proof of ownership, he started opening up. I knew something was off, he said. Lena's been acting like a TikTok celebrity for months. Meanwhile, your dad's been trying to flip the guest house into an Airbnb, and it's not even zoned for that. He poured money into that thing thinking it'd pay off. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. And there's more, Dylan added. Aunt Nancy said your parents were fighting about money at dinner last week. Something about the loan officer pulling out, and Lena refusing to go back to the original deal. I perked up. What original deal? No idea. But whatever it was, it's falling apart. That was all I needed. I wasn't going to confront them. That wasn't enough. What I wanted was for them to see me, really see me, right when their little empire started collapsing. I wanted the truth to echo in the vacuum they created. So I called my lawyer. Hey, Rishi, I said, how fast can we move to get a court date? Faster than usual if you have new leverage, he replied. You got something? I've got a flash drive, a video confession, and confirmation that the opposing party fraudulently listed a property in my name as loan collateral. He whistled. Well, that'll do it. Within a week, he'd filed a motion to expedite. The court date, which had been dancing around the calendar for months, was finally locked in. 2 weeks out. I marked it in red on my calendar, not just for the legal closure, but because I had something special planned for that exact day. But before that could happen, I had one more person to reach out to, my grandfather's old friend, Mr. Whitaker. He was a retired attorney and longtime family friend who used to come over for coffee on Sundays. Grandpa always called him the Vault because he remembered everything and kept every paper he ever touched. I hadn't spoken to him since the funeral, but I remembered something Grandpa once said. If anything ever happens and you need the truth to come out, Whitaker's got the backup. So I visited him, knocked on his door, holding my breath. He opened slowly, squinting until recognition softened his face. Julian, he said, you look just like your grandfather when he was angry but pretending not to be. I couldn't help but smile. I need your help. We sat in his study, surrounded by bookshelves that smelled like old paper and stronger coffee. I explained everything, showed him the documents, the flash drive, the emails from the bank. Whitaker nodded slowly and left the room. When he came back, he had a leather folder in his hands. Your grandfather didn't trust Easy, he said, but he trusted you. He gave me a copy of the final will and a notarized video testimony, in case anyone ever challenged it. My eyes widened. A second video? Shorter than yours, he said, but signed, sealed, and time-stamped. I took the folder like it was made of glass. Now I had everything. The next move wasn't about revenge, not yet. First, it was about exposure. Quiet, precise, humiliating exposure. So I printed copies of the will, the bank's loan documents, screenshots of Lena's public lies. I built a digital presentation with timestamps, receipts, and a clear narrative. Here is the truth. And here is how they try to bury it. I didn't send it to my parents. I didn't send it to Lena. I sent it to Aunt Nancy, to Uncle Reggie, to my dad's former business partner, the one who was always annoyed by Lena's freeloading. I sent it to every extended family member who had watched from the sidelines, swallowing Lena's story with a spoonful of sympathy. No message, no explanation, just a simple subject line. For your information. And then, I waited. The texts started coming in within the hour. Uncle Reggie, what is this? Aunt Nancy. Julian, did they really try to forge a loan with your house? Dad's ex-partner. Terry, I knew something was off with that girl. You good, kid? I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't have to, because I knew what was coming next. The day before the court hearing, my dad texted me. One word. Dad, lunch. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I replied. Me. Sure. Oakwood House. Noon. Let them come to me. Let them see what they gave up. I cleaned the house that morning like I was preparing for a guest of honor. Polished the floors. Brewed coffee. Set out 3 chairs. I left the copy of the will sitting on the table, right under Grandpa's photo. The one where he's holding me as a baby, both of us smiling. They arrived 10 minutes late. My dad looked older. Stressed. My mom looked uncomfortable. And Lena? She looked like she didn't want to be there at all. Thanks for seeing us, Dad said stiffly. I just nodded. Coffee? No, Mom said quickly. Suit yourself. I sat across from them. So, what do you want? Dad shifted. Look, This whole thing's gotten out of hand. Has it? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Or did it finally get visible? Lena rolled her eyes. Can we not be dramatic? You call me a thief. You tried to erase my relationship with Grandpa. And now that the truth is out, you're worried about drama? My voice didn't rise. I didn't shout. But the heat in it made all three of them shift. Dad cleared his throat. We just think it's time to be the bigger person. To move past this. I looked at him for a long time. Then I leaned back in my chair. Funny, I said softly. I wasn't family when I slept in my car. The silence was deafening. Lena had the nerve to look offended. You were never homeless. I tilted my head. Then where was I staying, Lena? She didn't answer. I lost my job, my apartment, and half my reputation because of your lie. And when I offered to split the inheritance, you called that proof I was guilty. Mom spoke up, finally. Julian, honey, we made a mistake. But you can't hold on to that forever. I smiled. Not kindly. I'm not holding on to it. I'm documenting it. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. The presentation already queued up. This is what the judge will see tomorrow. Every lie, every threat, every fraudulent document you signed. My eyes landed on Dad, including the one where you claim to own this house. He went pale. I'm not here to offer forgiveness, I said. I'm here to let you know that the door you slammed in my face, it's locked now, permanently. I stood up. You have one more night before the truth becomes public record. They stared at me like I'd slapped them. But I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked them to the door, opened it, and said, Court is at 9 a.m., don't be late. Then I closed the door behind them and locked it tight. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Maybe it was just my nerves. Maybe it was the years of betrayal finally crystallizing into a single moment. Either way, when I stepped inside and saw Lena seated next to my parents on the other side of the aisle, I felt nothing. No anger. No fear. Just calm. Like I'd already won. Like the outcome was just a formality now. Lena was dressed like she was auditioning for sympathy, blouse buttoned to the top, minimal makeup, eyes wide and solemn. My parents wore their usual concerned but dignified expressions, as if they were the wronged ones, here only because they had to be. It would have been laughable if I hadn't lived through the nightmare they caused. My lawyer, Rishi, leaned in and whispered, They're trying to settle. They'll drop the contest if you agree to split 50-50ths. I didn't blink. No. They're panicking, he said with a small grin. We've got them cornered. Good, I said. Let's finish this. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And just like that, it began. The case started with procedural formalities. Lena's lawyer, a jittery man with more bluster than backbone, launched into a speech about undue influence, painting me as a manipulative grandson who used my closeness to my grandfather to twist his final wishes. He referenced Lena's eyewitness account of me pressuring Grandpa, mentioned his declining mental state, and claimed the will had been executed without proper oversight. Then Rishi stood up. No further speculation, Your Honor, he said smoothly. Let's show the truth. He presented the original signed will, notarized and witnessed. He walked through Grandpa's medical history, complete with independent evaluations that confirmed his mental competence at the time he signed the documents. Then, he queued up the first video. The courtroom fell into a hush as Grandpa's face appeared on the screen. His voice, strong and unwavering, filled the room. If anyone says I didn't know what I was doing, don't believe them. This was my choice. I made it because Julian earned it. Period. I stole a glance at Lena. Her jaw tightened. Her hands curled in her lap. Then came the second video, Whitaker's backup, complete with a timestamp and a notarized affidavit confirming its authenticity. Rishi saved the best for last, the flash drive letter. He read it aloud slowly, letting every word sink in, especially the part about Lena, the part that made her flinch in her chair. By the time he finished, the judge looked tired. Not angry, not skeptical, just tired, like she'd seen this kind of greed before. Lena's lawyer requested a recess. Denied. He tried to cross-examine the authenticity of the video. Rishi provided a tech expert's signed certification. My parents sat like statues, offering no support for their daughter. For once, they had nothing to say. No defense. No spin. After a final review of the evidence, the judge adjusted her glasses, looked straight at Lena's side of the courtroom, and said, This case is not only without merit, it is deeply disturbing. I find no evidence of coercion, manipulation, or mental incompetence. On the contrary, the decedent's intent is crystal clear. She turned to me. Mr. Hale, the court affirms your sole inheritance of the Oakwood property and attached assets. Furthermore, you are entitled to pursue reimbursement for legal fees and damages related to defamation, should you choose to file separately. Then she looked back at Lena and my parents. And to the plaintiffs. Let this be a reminder that grief is not a license to exploit. Case dismissed. The gavel hit. It was done. Lena stood up too quickly and nearly stumbled. My mother reached for her arm, but she yanked it away. My father didn't move. He stared straight ahead like a man who just realized he'd bet everything and lost. They didn't speak to me as I walked past them. But I stopped. Just for a second. I looked Lena in the eye and said, "You ruined your own future." Grandpa saw it. I just confirmed it. Then I left. The fallout came quickly. 2 weeks after the ruling, the foreclosure finalized on my parents' guest house. Turns out the loan they took out, under the false pretense that Oakwood was a co-owned asset, violated the terms of their agreement. Once the bank verified that the property was solely mine, their collateral evaporated. Without it, the loan defaulted. Fast. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Just let the system do its thing. The guest house was seized. The renovations they sank tens of thousands into? Wasted. My parents were forced to take out a second mortgage on their home to avoid losing it too. I heard through Dylan that they had to cancel 2 vacations and were dipping into retirement funds to make ends meet. Mom started selling jewelry online. Dad cut his golf club membership. The tight-lipped suburban pride they wore like armor? Gone. As for Lena, well, her pity party dried up once the court records went public. She tried to spin it at first, posted some teary-eyed TikTok about being silenced by legal red tape and toxic generational wealth, but the comments weren't buying it anymore. Someone posted a clip of the judge's ruling, and it went viral in the small community of people who had once believed her. Sponsors pulled out. Her Instagram following tanked. Even some of her friends ghosted her. She tried reaching out once. Just once. She emailed me under a fake name. Something like lenatruth2025@gmail.com. The message was short. "I'm sorry. I was in a bad place. I just didn't want to feel like Grandpa loved you more than me. Maybe we can start over." I didn't respond. Some things don't deserve a second chapter. I moved fully into Oakwood a few weeks later. Turned Grandpa's old study into a sleek home office. Repainted the living room. Framed the flash drive letter and hung it next to a photo of him and me fishing when I was 10. Every corner of the house now held something real. Something earned. Something mine. And that startup job? I got promoted. I now manage a small but brilliant dev team. I lead meetings. Mentor interns. I get real respect. Not because of family ties or favoritism, but because I put in the work. And I survived. Sometimes people ask me about my family. I tell them the truth. That I don't have one. Not anymore. But I have peace. I have purpose. And I have proof that walking away from people who never saw your worth is the most powerful thing you can do. I kept one last thing from that day in court. The video of Grandpa, his voice strong and sure, telling the world I was enough. I play it sometimes when I need a reminder. And every time, it ends the same way. Him looking straight into the camera, eyes kind and steady, saying, "I chose you." So when people ask me how I did it, how I got my life back after everything, I just smile and say, by finally choosing myself.